So it's only been a day since Ed Boon received his, Outstanding Achievement Award at the DICE Awards, and fans are already speculating as to what he meant when he gave the answer as far as we've kind of broke the pattern as far as what we're doing. Fans will be excited with what comes next. You'll just have to wait and see. Fans were expecting an announcement at the awards. I don't know where they got that from, but they were expecting something. And, in true Ed Boon fashion, he just gave us a little tease, but again, vagueness, so we still have to wait. But that doesn't stop our favorite person anonymous at 4chan for leaking information, and this comes in the form of what I think is an interesting leaking concept, but how about some Mortal Kombat vs. DC Part 2? Let's get to it. So as I said, this does come from 4chan from our favorite person anonymous, and it's titled, NetherRealm Studios are working on a MK vs. DC 2, kinda. So I know that title at first is like, wait, so it is or it isn't? Let's get into it and it'll kind of explain itself. So along with this lovely picture of a DC versus Mortal Kombat roster, menu pick screen, it says, I have pretty credible source telling me that NetherRealm Studios, along with the possibility of another studio, which is interesting, are working on an MK vs. DC 2 game. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, what other studio could it be? Maybe is it Rock's, maybe is it the studio that, also makes the Arkham games? Maybe they're teaming up with that to kind of give them more of a catalog of characters with that. It's possible, right? We don't know. And it goes on to say, but it isn't in the traditional sense. Okay. They're actually making two separate games, Injustice 3 and MK12. Surprise, surprise. We figured those are coming. That will have some sort of crossover mechanism. I'm told the games will share mechanics with one another, but as act as standalone titles. There will also be a standalone free-to-play MK vs. DC title that will join the game rosters and can somehow be linked to the standalone titles. This is all the info I got, but 100% believe my sources in the know. I don't know the release dates or rosters or anything other than that. Now this is interesting because, we've been talking about this 3rd anniversary game that possibly has some of the OG arcade actors coming back. So we have possibly that game. We have like a Mortal Kombat Ragnarok game, Mortal Kombat Trinity, trilogy remake. We have all these other things going on top of what we come to expect as far as the pattern of Mortal Kombat, Injustice, Mortal Kombat, whatever it's going to be. But given that Ed Boon talks about breaking the pattern and still us getting something to come, what if this was it? I think this is an interesting concept. Now, of course, it's a leak, so it's all grain of salt, right? All taken with a grain of salt. But this is very, very interesting because why could we not have something like that? Now, I know that, Mortal Kombat vs. DC was, some people liked it, some people didn't. Some people didn't like the story. Some people didn't like that there wasn't any blood. I get it. But, since Injustice has come along, especially after that movie, like I said in my review, that movie's got blood. I mean, there's a Red Band trailer. So maybe DC is finally ready to go there with some of the characters based off of that movie. Maybe that was like the test, So maybe we're ready for that. And I think it'd be kind of interesting in that, what if you're an Injustice fan, but you're not so much a Mortal Kombat fan? What if you're a Mortal Kombat fan, but you're not really an Injustice fan? But wouldn't it be cool if you could download like a Mortal Kombat versus DC 2, I don't know, pack or add-on? Some type of story or something that you can add on to the game that will give you some DLC, will give you additional stories so you can play with the characters. And maybe it could be its own full-fledged game, like in a box set that you could buy that has both titles and like the crossover event. But I mean, this is very kind of like CW, right? Like you have two different shows and they have a crossover event multiple times throughout the series. Why not do that with the games? That's a very interesting dynamic and a very interesting idea. And I think it might work. I think it could work. I mean, definitely in the comments below what you think about having a Mortal Kombat vs. DC kind of, bridge style DLC that will allow them to do that. But I think it might work. Mortal Kombat 12 is going to have its own things going on. Injustice 3, I think there's enough where it's going to have its own thing going on. Why not have just this little bit of piece of extra that how to make a whole full-blown video game? Just have this little piece of gameplay that allows them to cross over and not require the developers to do too much. I think that's kind of a great and ingenious idea. I mean, it's something. I mean, I know that Warner Brothers games is all about making the money, but if Mortal Kombat 11 has made a lot of cash and has propelled the franchise forward, we know that Mortal Kombat 12 is going to do that. Let Injustice have its time to shine too, and I think if they're able to link those together, it might get more Mortal Kombat fans into Injustice and maybe more Injustice fans into Mortal Kombat. Now, I know if a lot of people watch this video, they're like, Justin, I'm a fan of both. Me too. I'm sure you are. But there's probably some people out there that don't, they do one or the other, they don't do both, right? They're not into Mortal Kombat fully, they're in Injustice, they're not into Injustice 3, they're into Mortal Kombat. So it's just very, very interesting. Now, as far as the rosters go, you know, I know this leak didn't give a lot of information with that, but on both sides, you could have a lot of characters. In Injustice 3, I think you could have the majority of characters from the first one, the second one, maybe have unlocked characters for past villains. Obviously, with the new villain coming along. So, I mean, the roster could be pretty good size with that. And then as far as Mortal Kombat 12, we all know, so with some of the leaks we talked about, we're going to have possibly new characters, OG characters, you know, possibly giving us characters that we haven't had in past Mortal Kombat games finally show up in this time. So it's interesting to see that we could have large amount of rosters on both sides of the table and then finally getting to come together. And possibly that being our, you know, I didn't really think about this. What if it was like a NetherRealm Styles Smash Brothers game, right? That's kind of what that would be. Well, don't you think if you had all the Injustice 3 characters, all the Injustice franchise characters, and then a lot of the Mortal Kombat characters, and had this kind of moment where they could go against each other? It's like Capcom versus Marvel, Street Fighter versus Capcom. Now you have Injustice, you know, we have MK versus DC. We have it once again, and I think maybe this time it'll be done right. So what do you think overall as far as Mortal Kombat versus DC 2? Is it something you'd like to see either as a standalone title or as more of a crossover add-on DLC kind of separate pack you have to purchase? Let me know in the comments below. That's it for this video, guys. Hit the like button. Please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time on the Mashup.